Technology is the most powerful change in the world of education.
Everything changes.
Welcome to the Emerging Technologies in Education podcast, delivered to you by Clever Books Company. Dear listeners, thank you for joining Emerging Technologies in Education podcast series, and we have Jukka as a guest today. Hi Jukka, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you today?
Good, thank you. So I'm gonna give Jukka the word to introduce himself, tell which country he's coming from, and what he's doing in life professionally. Here you go.
Yes, so hello everyone. My name is Jukka Tulivuori. I come from Finland, up from the north in Helsinki, and I work in the Finnish National Agency for Education, which is part of the Ministry of Education and Culture. I actually have quite many responsibility areas in the agency, but one of them is ICT in education, developing learning environments and so on, that how can we develop the use of ICT in education and learning. And the main responsibility maybe in our office is mainly we develop the national core curricula for the Finnish schools, which is of course then the ICT in education is one part of the core curricula as well.
Sounds really interesting what you do. So we're going to have a lot of topics for discussion. So I want to start with asking you, what is your personal opinion on using technology for the education? Are you positive about that, negative about that, and why?
Well, I think I have to say, of course, that I'm positive to have technology in education, and I see it, of course, as a benefit that it's the technology is not like something that has to be used, but I mean, when it's a natural part of the pedagogical process where the learning is happening, when it's supporting the learning process, then it's of course important. So we can enhance the learning process by using different ways of technology. And of course, in today's society, you cannot kind of survive without technology either. So I think it's also one of the most important tasks in the school nowadays to make the pupils and students ready to use technology when they get into the working life and of course in their life outside working as well. There is no place where you cannot. I mean, you have to use technology everywhere. So I think it's a positive thing, of course, because it can help and make the learning easier.
I like your point of view that it's the thing that anyway in our life, and it occupies our life, and it is a positive thing indeed. So taking the advantage you are in Finland, and I'm really curious how it is going in different countries in terms of using technology in schools. Can you give your maybe experience or point of view or something you know about how is the current state and using technology in the classroom in Finland?
Well, as far as we know, especially in comprehensive schools, they are using a lot of technology nowadays in teaching and learning. We have a lot of one-to-one examples in the Finnish schools and even in the municipalities. Some of the biggest municipalities, for example, just last year decided to buy computers or tablets for everyone. So it's quite common in the Finnish schools. Also in the secondary or upper secondary level, it's getting more and more common because, for example, we are now partly doing the matriculation examination with computers. So there, of course, has to be also the use of computers must be very important during the whole upper secondary school phase as well. And even in pre-primary and in kindergartens, the technology is coming more and more in the daily lives of the children there. So I would say that it's already quite common in our country. And of course, also the internet connections are getting better and better. And as far as I remember from the last statistics, for example, all the Finnish schools are now connected to internet already. So it's quite widely distributed around the country.
That sounds really impressive and advanced. Well done to Finland. Another question to you. So we were talking about using general technology for applied for school education. I want to know your personal opinion about maybe some specific technologies you think could be beneficial for the classroom at any stage, or maybe for the adults, like open courses or e-libraries, maybe 3D printing, or maybe emerging technologies like augmented virtual reality. What do you think could be the most beneficial for the classroom, and why you think so? Or maybe you can give some examples where you've seen or you have the experience with.
Well, I'm actually also responsible for biology and geography education in Finland, and of course there I also see the benefits. It's very beneficial. For example, in biology, you can use this kind of animations or virtual reality and these kind of things that if you want to go inside the human body, for example, which might not otherwise be possible, but when you use computers or iPads or something to use the animations, the virtual reality, that really makes it different. Like it's much easier to teach and learn about those things. And then, for example, in geography, the use of geographical information systems, GIS is something that didn't exist when I went myself to school 25 years ago, so that you can even plan your traveling online with different buses, trains, or things like this. So I mean, it's kind of thing that you are used to use in your daily life, but then of course also in school. But I mean, it maybe like widens the perspective of learning a lot when you are using these kind of devices. Especially, for example, in biology, I see it's very beneficial there.
I think it's a good application, by the way, especially for the mixed reality. And you are so right. There are several things that we cannot experience in life as they are. We can only have a picture of it in a book and potentially a model, which could be quite expensive, rather than getting a technology and having a look inside the body and investigating that all. I think it's really, really great example of that. And
Yeah, then of course, I mean, you don't even have to travel so far nowadays, that you can be connected via Skype or something to another school in the other end of Europe or even outside Europe very easily. So that's also making things, you can cooperate very easily. And I think that's a very interesting part of the education now as well.
Yeah, I love this point too. And I was recently talking to one of the educators in the US, and they actually outlined that there are so many things they are doing with the virtual and augmented reality, and there are different applications of those technologies, like going inside a tornado or travel in a different country and with the help of augmented reality and making a report on that country and presenting it in the classroom. So there are so many things that could be actually done with the with technology nowadays. And then I wanted to ask you another question. Like, I see that Finland is already quite advanced in using technology in education. How do you see it developing? Is it going to be a mainstream for all the classrooms? And how do you guys deal with the content, in case you know, because getting the hardware is one thing, but having the quality content is another thing. Is that the educational technology in Finland developing also really fast? And do you have any companies that are actually working on developing the content for the curriculum?
Well, actually, previously we had only kind of a few very commercial publishers that were developing all the learning materials, and then it was mainly books, like paper books for schools, to be used as learning materials. But nowadays, I think we have a lot of new companies that are only concentrating on the kind of electrical or e-materials, and they are developing them very fast. So actually, I see it as a very positive change that we have a lot of new companies coming to the market, and they are concentrating mainly on e-learning and these kind of things. And then, of course, we also have a lot of these kind of edu startups already that are not only concentrating on the Finnish market, but they also want to get to the international market. So I see it's expanding quite fast at the moment, but of course it could be more advanced as well. That we know that in the schools they still want to use a lot of the paper books, but of course I don't want to see it so negative either, that it should be like either the computers or just the books. That of course you can always mix this kind of blended learning thing. I think it's useful to use both. It's not like that you should only use 100% technology, because when you have different ways of learning, that of course makes the learning also easier and maybe better achieving the goals and objectives of the curriculum.
And I think also to add to this point is it could be also the case that for some kids it's easier to perceive the information when they are holding a physical book, and for some kids it's easier to perceive the information when they have a digital device in hand. So it also depends on the way people are perceiving the information and what kind of type of person they are. That's really interesting insight that you've given right now. And maybe you can share if you follow any educational resources where you keep yourself on top of the news that are coming up in the edtech.
Sorry, can you repeat now then?
Yeah, so if you follow anything like blogs or maybe videos or maybe podcasts that are talking about education technology and you want to share, if anything.
Well, in Finland, we have actually a lot of these kind of smaller companies, as I said earlier, and you can find many of them from it's called an X-Edu accelerator. They are having small companies that they are accelerating to be bigger ones in EdTech. One, for example, is called Lyfta, which is a really nice company. They are producing this kind of virtual learning environments, but they're doing it, for example, for human rights, which is kind of really cool that you don't have to be so traditional in the subjects that you are teaching in those things. That, for example, they are doing a lot of different kind of materials. You can get into an Ethiopian village in that material, which is actually a really nice way of teaching those things.
That sounds really interesting. And last question I have to you. It's a tricky one. I know that it's difficult to you, might be difficult for you to answer, but sometimes we meet people who say, I don't want to use technology in the classroom. I think it's not the place for it. And I think the traditional way of teaching is way better, as it's proven with the 100 years. What do you normally say to those people who don't want to go outside their comfort zone and start using the technology in their classroom?
Well, actually, in Finland, we have the teacher freedom, so it's really up to the teacher what kind of methods they want to use. Of course, in the curricula, there is the ICT as well. But I usually, maybe if I have these kind of questions, I would first ask that, do you need more training? Like if they are uncertain about the skills they are having, how to use technology. And that's many times maybe the case that we should offer them maybe more training, that how could they use the technology in pedagogically clever way in their classrooms. And that sometimes helps. And then, of course, also that you should start maybe with small baby steps, how to start using the technology. It's not like you have to use it every day or every lesson. You can start using it once a week and go further. So it's something that you can also develop yourself. But I think in nowadays world, you cannot survive without it. So you cannot say that I'm not using it at all. So I think it's just how the world goes now. You have to get used to it.
That's a really great point of view, and I think it's really beneficial for people to try it out. And if it works, it works. If it's for you, it's for you. If not, then maybe you can try something else. But yeah, thank you very much for those insights and the point of view that you've shared. I really appreciate that, and I wish you a great day.
Thank you. Thank you. You the same.
Everything changes.